Before we get going into your Hockey IQ podcast episode, I want to thank our sponsor, Rapid Shot. Rapid Shot is the smart shooting lane. It's like a batting cage for hockey players. Very cool. Tracks your shot in three ways: accuracy, shot speed, and reaction time. Easy to use. Actually, I used it when I played and was growing up. Very easy. Simply scan your phone in, select your settings, and start shooting. You can see your stats on the app and online. You can check them out at rapidshot.com. Great small business. I actually grew up with one of the owner's sons and have played with all the family members by now, just in local pickups here in Ohio. Very cool local business. Awesome product. I love it. I know quite a few NHLers have them in their homes. A lot of D1 programs have it at their rinks. So you have to check this out. Rapidshot.com. Check it out. Rapid Shot, thank you so much for sponsoring our podcast. Welcome back to part 2 with Andre Lacroix. We're going to continue talking about coaching here. So, Andre, want to talk about your mindset when it comes to coaching skills. So, if you're coaching skills, because I know you had for a long time a business out in Oakland, and then you were doing some skills training here in Cleveland as well. So I'm curious to hear about how you went about that, what skills were important for you, how you went about teaching those, etc.
See, to me, the game is a simple game. Coaches make it a difficult game. The coaches, I think, they read too many books and they watch too many films, because the game is simple. If you skate, you play position hockey, you pass the puck, you shoot the puck, the game is simple. So every team that I coach, I would say, guys, I said, we're not going to make things complicated here. When we come out of our zone here, so we were going to come out of our zone. That's been going like this for 100 years. So why change? So as long as everybody buys into the system, which is come in the zone, 5 guys in the zone, 5 guys out. And I say, guys, if you make a mistake, it's okay. It's a game of mistake. The pros are getting paid millions of dollars, and they make more mistake than you make. So I always said to them, I said, I never criticize a kid that came to the bench. Let's say after you give the puck away, someone scored or whatever. I never did. I said, that's okay. At least you tried. What you did was the right decision. It just didn't work. So I'm a very, very positive coach when it comes down to that. My feeling as a coach is I have to respect the players before they respect me, because I don't want them to think, because I played pro hockey for so many years, that I know everything, because I don't. I want them to feel comfortable with me. And I use basically simple drills. The one thing I believe strongly, and most coaches don't do that, and none of them, I don't think, in hockey do it. You need to scrimmage in practice. How can you not scrimmage when that's what the game is all about? You could do drills the whole practice, but nothing is happening in game situation. If you scrimmage, then you can see which players might fit well with another player. They might play well together, or they might not, but you can only see that if you scrimmage. And when I say we scrimmage, I scrimmage every practice at the youth level and also at the high school level. We would do drills for about, maybe 30 minutes, and we'd work the power play, work the penalty killing, and scrimmage for about 15, 20 minutes. And also, I put a lot of trust into my assistant coaches. It happened to me at the high school level when I had assistant coaches. In practice, I was, okay, you take the defense for 15 minutes, I'll take the forward for 15 minutes. And then many times in games, in practice, I would tell a coach, I said, it's time for you to run practice, because they heard enough of me. They need a different voice. So I would let somebody else, like Georgie. Georgie's a great, great, great coach. And then many times we would win a game after practice. We'd go play a game against whoever that was, and we'd win. And after the game, I would call Georgie over. I said, Georgie, do you know why we won tonight? I said, why? Because of you. Because what you did in practice. Because he did the way he ran the practice, he had everybody involved. everybody left with a smile on their face, and they all had a good sweat. They all had good practice, and we were ready for the game. So coaching is not about the coach, and too many coaches feel that when you lose, it's the player's fault. When you win, it's a coach. It's a coach that win. That's a bunch of crap, because you cannot win unless you have the horses. Number one, you could be the greatest coach in the world. If you don't have the good players, you're not going to win. So the players deserve the credit when they win, and they also deserve the blame when they lose. So to me, coaching, it's all about teamwork, from the coaches to the assistant coaches and to the players. And the other thing is, I always tell them, I have a meeting every year, every team I coach, youth level and high school. I had a meeting at the start of the season with the parents and the players. And I told them what the rules were. I don't want to hear from the parents. If the player has a problem, he can come to me and we can solve it. But don't bother calling me, because I'm not going to talk to you. And I made it clear. This is not about you. This is about your kid and the team. So if anything is wrong, we're going to solve it, and everybody's going to be happy when it's over. So I feel strongly about that, because I really felt that players try hard. Some players were not happy because they weren't getting as much ice time as they should. And I say, you have to earn it. I said, I'm not the type that's I will not keep the same power play if it doesn't work. I won't do that. Some kids feel they should be on the power play all the time. It doesn't matter what. I said, no. And I've changed power play many times in games because it wasn't working. I said, I need to get something different here, because then it motivates the kids I took off the ice. He's going to say, oh, I better work out next time because I might not play the power play again. So, as long as you make the decision that's for the team, that is not for the individual, you'll be happy, because a lot of time coaches want to keep some kids happy or some parents happy, and that's the worst mistake they can make.
Yeah, and I really like how you talked about it. It's the player's problem.
It is the player's problem.
And,
absolutely.
Yeah, and if they're not able to take care of it at a younger age, and I would say arguably a much lower stakes environment than true life, where you're no longer a minor. If you mess up, things can be much worse. This is perfect opportunity to understand, how do I deal with issues, how do I work through adversity, all of those things in a very controlled environment, compared to outside of the rink.
Oh yeah, the other rule that I had, Greg, too, is that I allowed the kids like to listen to music before games and stuff. I said, okay, you can bring music, but I said, I better not hear any rap music, because then the music's going to be over with. And I said, 15 minutes before going on the ice, there's no more music. You need to concentrate on what you're going to do on the ice, because otherwise they might play a great song and the guys are going to walk out of the locker room singing the song they listen to. That means your mind is not on the game. So 15 minutes before every game, I used to walk in the locker room. I said, turn the music off. And that was it. Then I want them to concentrate on the game.
That's fantastic. I always find issues with the music, especially if it's super loud. Like, how are you supposed to communicate with your teammates?
That's a good
build
point.
Those relationships as well.
That's a good point, because I said, guys, I don't want everyone in the building to hear your music. I said, this is for you guys. This is not for everybody. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. And I loved your comment here. Coaching is not about the coach. It's so true. Even when you're talking about drill design, finding ways to remove yourself, like scrimmage is a perfect example. You're not in the drill, you're allowing the players to play. And I remember when I was a youth player, and we'd go a week without any scrimmaging, and then we'd go and play a game, and I felt like I was out of, like a fish out of water. Like, the distances, the spacing was all messed up, and it was just terrible. Like, the timing was awful. It almost took you a period to get back into it, rather than if you come off a scrimmage, you're getting all of those little elements.
Your dad told me many times, he learned from me about the scrimmage. He said, when I saw you were, running practice and scrimmage, he said, that makes sense. So your dad was doing that the same way. Your dad was coaching the same way I did.
Worked out just fine. I liked it.
Absolutely.
When you guys were coaching Geauga, even though we were so far east that we were the last rink before you pretty much got to Youngstown and Pittsburgh. There was a time where we had nothing but AA teams at every single level. And I think it had a lot to do with the quality of coaching was so high. Spearheaded by you guys.
And a lot of kids wanted to come and play for us because they knew the way we were coaching. They knew that the kids would get something out of it. You see, to me, I feel like I want to make sure that every kid that's on the team gets better. Some of them won't get much better, but they'll get better. Some of them will get much better, but it depends what you put in. See, the problem when I'm glad that I retired when I did from coaching, because the problem now, the kids, with the cell phone and all the games that they play, their concentration is not on the game. Their concentration is someplace else. And that's why it's not good for the kids that play. You get too many, what they call special teams here, like you call themselves AAA. There's no AAA players here. The reason, every time they go to Michigan, they get their butt kicked, So my feeling is that play at the level you should be playing, because a lot of teams that play on those teams, the only reason they play is because the parents can afford for the kid to play there. And those teams, they need X amount of players to make sure they can fit the budget in. So I always tell anytime somebody comes to me and asks me for advice about playing for a certain team, I say to them, if the coach wants you that bad, I said, ask the coach where he ranks you. I was never afraid to tell a parent or a kid where you rank on my team. But I said, if you're forward and you play on a team that costs you a lot of money to play and travel a lot, if you're not one of the top 6 forward, you're on the wrong team. If you're not one of the top 3 defensemen, you're on the wrong team. Because those coaches, it's a business for them. They have to win to make sure that they can recruit kids for next season. So I always felt that at that level, it's not about the kids. It's about basically the program to be successful. Well, the program only going to be successful if the kids are happy. And if the kid doesn't get much ice time and he goes away twice a month and his schoolwork has been affected by it, that's a problem. And I see that all the time, to be honest with you. I see that all the time. And it's sad. It's really sad.
Yeah, we've got some issues down here in Columbus with some teams doing breakout groups and doing their own thing. And it just waters down it for everyone.
Yep.
I like what you talked about. Just like, are they happy? Why, what makes a kid happy? And I think not enough people. It's an easy Google. I'm not going to give the solutions here. If people truly want to understand, why do kids play sports and why do they enjoy sports? Just Google that real quick, and it will not be because I was playing at the highest level.
Well, another thing too, Greg, that's really bad for for kids are kids that play hockey year round. That's the worst thing a kid can do. I always told the parents and the kids, if you play hockey year round, you just work on your mistakes. You don't get better because you're going to go on the ice, so you don't try that hard, to be honest with you. Okay. I say, when I played midget hockey in Quebec, we didn't have indoor rink. So we started playing hockey at the end of November, and in March we were done because there was no more ice. I was so happy because then I could play baseball with my friends. But then when November came in, I couldn't wait to go on the ice. I was anxious to go on the ice. And I played tennis by accident because I'm from a big family. We couldn't afford any of those sports. And I played tennis by accident. We had a tennis court at school. And I used to go play tennis with friends. And I got that, again, I think God gave me a talent because why would I play tennis? And then I realized later, tennis is probably the best sport for a hockey player to play. Because the reason is because hockey is hand and eye coordination. Tennis is high and hand coordination. In tennis, you go sideways, go forward, go backwards. You need to put the ball where the player is not. In hockey, it's the same way. You need to put the puck where the opposition is not. So I played tennis the same way I played hockey, to be honest with you. And I tell the people, I said, make your kid play another sport after the season is over. Then they'll be anxious to get on the ice. And I also, the other thing I believe in is by the time you're 12 or 13 years old, you shouldn't go to hockey school. If you're serious about the game, take private lessons. But I said, take private lessons because you want it. Don't take private lessons because your parents want you to take them. Because let's face it, nobody's going to go anywhere with this. Eventually, you're going to end up playing in the beer league. So you might as well enjoy yourself, get as good as you can, and go to college. If you're lucky in college, you might play club hockey. But otherwise, it's just something you can do the rest of your life, and you make a lot of friends doing that. But don't get your hopes too high, and then you get disappointed. That's why I don't believe the kids should spend that kind of money to play on special teams at the age of 12 or 13 or 14 years old. I think it's a waste of money, and I don't believe the kids get much better.
I have to agree, and I loved your point on the kids need to be asking for lessons, not parents. That was always the first question. Like I'd always take the first lesson that a kid / parent wanted, and that was the first question I always asked the kid when they got out there in the ice. Like, are you excited for this? Did your parents sign you up? And kids are kids. They're not going to sugarcoat it. Like, they'll tell you how it is. Maybe the older one might not, but the younger ones will definitely tell you, and then you can totally understand. And you've probably done the same thing I did, where I just like, your kid's not super into it. You should allow him to do other things. And, if he wants to play video games, then fair enough. Like, it's more about fun and getting a break and enjoying yourself.
Greg, when I live in California, I ran the ring there. There's a lawyer that came to me and he said, I'm not going to have my kid play hockey this year. I'm going to have you give him a lesson once a week instead. I said, well, let's start with 1 or 2 lessons. Let's go from there. Okay. So I said, first, I said, it's not good. It's not a good idea. I said, the kid needs the competition. I said, I could give him a lesson every week. He's not going to get better unless he competes with somebody. At some point, I had to lie to him. I had to tell him I couldn't find any ice because you could tell the kid didn't want to be on the ice, number one. The dad wanted him to go. He thought that I could make him a hockey player. There's not the coach that can make somebody a hockey player unless the kid wants it. And then I can tell I'm pretty good at figuring people out. And a lot of times I get a lot of people ask me to give them private lesson, and I refuse. I find reason not to. It's because I don't want people to go and say, he took lesson from Andre, and that's where he plays. Because I know the kid's not going to get much better because his heart is not into it. Because a lot of kids think that by taking a private lesson from me, because I played pro for so many years, that he's going to be better. That's not true. That's not true. I can put as much as I can into it, but if the kid doesn't put as much as I do, we have a problem.
Yeah, because then it starts to reflect on you a little bit, and there's all.
Well, that my reputation is more important than the private lesson.
Yes, absolutely. That's couldn't have said it better there. And you've got some other great ideas around the hockey rink, with development like that. But I love your overtime idea that I think we should implement at all of the tournaments, all of the leagues, including the NHL, around 3-on-3, 2-on-2, and then 1-on-1. I think this is just a much better way about improving the system itself, and just how much fun and entertaining. Like you get down to 1-on-1, people are going to come watch from the other rink.
See, I have no. You see, they could start 4-on-4, to be honest, for 4 minutes. Okay. Then after 4 minutes, the buzzer goes off. Doesn't matter where you are. Then you go 3-on-3 for 3 minutes. Then you go 2-on-2 for 2 minutes. Then you go 1-on-1 for 1 minute. And then if nobody score, you get them like a 20-second break and say, okay, now we're going to go back to 1-on-1 until someone score. Then you have a winner. Because if you look at the shootout, first, most of these guys today, I mean, the goalies, they're so good that the goalies are so big now. It's hard to dig the goalie now because, they're huge. And when they shoot, the goalie covers so much of the net that there's hardly any room to put the puck in. So, and the shootout, it's not exciting. You don't see anybody doing something different. You know, sometimes you see a kid that's going to try something that's, like he thinks that's an all-star game, whatever. I said, God bless you. That's good. You don't score, but fans going to get excited, But shootout has to go. Shootout has to go.
Yeah, it's just boring. It was exciting for a little bit, but no, you get one-on-one and it's just straight up power of will, or the goalie gets involved. Like there's a whole lot of fun. I'm curious about some other ideas you have out there of ways we can improve the game, or better ways we can develop players.
Yeah, well, you see, the other thing too, to be honest with you, one major reason why 4-on-4 is so boring is because I don't think that the team that carries the puck in, shouldn't be allowed to take the puck back out. Because that's why it's so boring, because the guy carries the puck in, then he sees it, and anybody to pass the puck to, he skate way out, then they change guys, then they do the same crap again. They go in, they don't have a chance to score, get at the blue line, but then, I can't find anybody, so I'll skate out. So everybody skates out. There's so much waste of time. If they skate out, they should lose possession of the puck. That would make it more exciting. And say, if you carry the puck inside the blue line, if the puck comes back over the blue line, the puck goes to the other team. That would be more exciting. Then they wouldn't waste too much time just passing the puck around.
Yes. I mean, you see it 3-on-3 all the time.
Oh my gosh. 4-on-4 is so boring now, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm curious about other things. Like you've been around the game for a long time, and I want to continue to learn from you. What are some other things that you think most people don't pick up on, but are great for the game, great for the players themselves?
Well, I always tell let's talk about the kids watching game, for example. I think one of the major reasons I think where I was successful at all levels is because when I was a kid, I used to watch Hockey Night in Canada on Wednesday and Saturday night. And when I watched TV, I watched the Montreal Canadiens on Wednesday and Saturday night. And my idol always been Big John Beliveau, and then Henry Richard, because Henry Richard and I were the same size, but also because they played center. So when I watch a hockey game, Greg, I was 13 years old, and when I was watching a game, I was not watching the game. I was watching these guys to see what they were doing. So when my recommendation to the kids that play hockey, when you watch something, whatever position you play, watch somebody that plays the same position when you watch a hockey game on TV, or if you go watch a game in person, watch what they do. You can learn from the mistake they make and also from the good plays they make. That's how you're going to get better, to be honest with you, is by watching someone that plays your position. But kids don't do that today because they don't have to. Coaches today don't tell the kids that. Say, everything is a blackboard now. I never carry the blackboard with me. Never. I don't believe in that. I'd rather talk to the kid. What good is it to explain something after it's done? Because the same play is not going to happen again. The game is too fast. That's why the other reason why I don't watch much hockey anymore, they've got those screens on the bench now. They watch what they did after they come off the ice. It's too late to watch that, So all the sports now, and hockey in particular, it's becoming more of what I call like a computer game. That's the best way I can call it, I guess. Because hockey, you cannot make hockey a perfect game. It's not going to happen. Never going to happen. The puck moves too fast. So what good is it to figure out, now you should have made that pass 10 seconds earlier and you would have had it. That's easy for you to say. You're not on the ice. So there are too many coaches, and all the coaches that are there, they want to have their input. Otherwise, they might not need them. So they need, let's face it, when hockey was successful and hockey was popular, there was one coach on the bench. That was it. Toblick was in Montreal. Punchimlak was in Toronto, and they coached for how many years? But he was making all the decision for everybody. So if they could do it then, why do you need 4 guys to do that today? Unless you make the game complicated. Game is simple. Keep it simple. So to me, I think that the best advice I can give the parents and the kids is don't go with the idea that your kid's not going anywhere with this. And if you go that way, your kid might get somewhere. But if you go with the idea that your kid plays on a team that's not that good, I want him to be on a better team, you get serious problem when you do that. I've seen people leaving a team because the team was a good little team, but they felt that the competition was not good enough. They want to travel. They want to play in Columbus. They want to play in Pittsburgh and all that stuff. And I said, but it's not good for your kid. The kid's not going to have fun. So let the kids play at their level, and then you'll see how it's going to happen. The other thing is, I think hockey's on its way down as far as the youth hockey, I believe. I don't think there's as many youth players playing it now as they used to be. And what happened, because there's not that many, a lot of kids play it, like, for example, like Pee Wee 1 or Pee Wee AA, because they don't have 2 teams. They only have 1 team. So the kid plays at a level that he doesn't belong to. Then you find a program that the kid should be playing in. But most of the time, parents don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. They just want the kid to play at the highest level possible. And I think that's the worst thing they can do for their kids. Let him play where he's having fun. Listen, if he can have a lot of success at one level, let it be. That's how he's going to learn to be better as well. If he has success, he'll have success when he gets older. But if you go to our level, he doesn't get the ice time and he doesn't get the points, he'll get frustrated and he'll want to quit. And then you paid for the kid to play and you're stuck with it.
Yeah, or the game becomes too fast and they can't think through it the same way
fast.
they did. It just turns into survival rather than really being
that's what
able
it
to
is.
Enjoy it.
Exactly. It's all about survival. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to take a turn here and talk a little bit about your book. So after the Second Snowfall, maybe give us a little bit of background of what that means to you and why you chose that to be the title of your book. And we can ask some questions off this, but I'm really curious about how you handled negotiating your own contracts as well. But we'll start off of the title and go from there.
Well, the title, Jim Smith, a good friend of mine, he lived in Hudson, at Kent, basically. And I coached his son, Gabe. And I was talking about the book, and I was debating on what to call it. I had different names, like someone said, The Magician, and I said, I didn't want this to be a hockey book. And then he remembered me telling him the reason I was so happy when Thanksgiving was coming in Quebec, like in November, it's because when we got the first snowstorm in Quebec, the snow never stayed. It disappeared the next day. It was sunny, the snow was gone. When we got the second snowstorm, the snow stayed, and that's when we knew we could start playing hockey. And that's why I named the book after the Second Snowfall. And I wanted to write a personal book because I have a unique situation, because I'm the youngest of 14 children, 7 boys, 7 girls, and I'm the only one that played hockey. I have one of my brother that skated, Jacques, who's a priest. He's 2 years older than me. The rest of my brothers never played hockey. My sister never skated either. And so we grew up with nothing. And my parents knew I loved to play hockey. I never had a curfew because they knew where I was all the time. If I didn't play ball in the summer, I played hockey in the winter. I was always home for the meals. And when I was 13 years old, I used to watch the first period of the hockey game. If I had a game on Sunday, I watched the game on Saturday night. I watched one period, and I would go to bed because I knew I needed my rest the next day. And then one time, I'll never forget, I tell people, I said, we were going for the championship at the midget level. And we had a game on a Friday night. And then being brought up Catholic, you were not supposed to eat meat on Friday. So I went to ask a priest if permission to eat meat, because I had heard that the NHL players eat meat the day of a game. They eat a steak. And he wouldn't give me permission. He said, could you have fish? I said, that's not the same, So I went home and my mom made me a steak anyway, but at least I asked permission for it. And then what I want to talk in the book, I want to talk about what my family did for me, and also the fact that I negotiated on my contract. I talk about the money I made when I played junior, the money I made when I played pro, all the contracts I signed. And the reason I think if I didn't have the success that I had, I would have probably have an agent. But because I had success playing hockey, I always want to work a good relationship with the ownership of the team I played for. Because every team I played for, I always thought it would be the only team I would be playing for. I never thought I would go to so many teams. And one of the things I had an attorney that put everything legal for me, but I negotiated the terms of my contract. And one of the things I had, one of the clauses I had in my contract is that if the team was sold, if the team moved, I became a free agent. And the reason I played on so many teams is because either the team folded or the team moved. And I was lucky. I won the scoring title. I had great years. I was a free agent. And I signed with another team for a lot more money. But every team that I was with, I said, I hope this is the last team I'm with. When I went to play New York in the World Hockey League, I figured there have to be a team in New York. If there's no team in New York, the league won't survive. Well, the team lasts 2 months in New York. So we end up moving to New Jersey. Because we moved to New Jersey, I became a free agent. And that's when I ended up in San Diego. And when I was in San Diego for a year or two, then Ray Kroc, the owner of McDonald's, bought the team. And then Buzzy Bavisi was the general manager of the Padres at the time, and Ray Kroc owned the Padres. He called me in Philadelphia. He said, I want you to come to San Diego. I want to talk to you about your contract. I understand you're a free agent. So I flew to San Diego, sat down with them. And then my idea was to get a McDonald's franchise. So we talked, and then I asked him about the McDonald's franchise, and he said, do you know why Reggie Jackson is not here? Because Reggie Jackson was with the Yankees, and then he became a free agent, and he was considering San Diego, and he wanted a franchise. And he said, absolutely not. Mr. Kroc will not mix business with sports. So I said, I guess if Reggie's not going to get a franchise, I'm not going to get one. And then I got up 3 times, basically, because in those days, the only thing he had was fax, So I told my lawyer that I would call him if we come up with an agreement or whatever. So 3 times I got up to walk out. He said, sit down. Because one of the things I had in my contract, they had to supply me with a car of my choice during the season. And I told him, I said, after living in San Diego for a couple of years, I see a lot of Rolls Royce around. I said, I would like to have one, but I don't want a new one. I want a used one. And then we got talking. He said, okay, let's forget all the bonus, all that stuff. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'll give you $175,000 a year. At the time, I was one of the highest paid player. I'll give you a 6-year contract, and it's going to be personally guaranteed by Mr. Kroc. Well, Mr. Kroc in 1974 was worth $500 million. So at that time, if the team folded whatever, I knew my money was guaranteed. Then after he worked because the reason he told the city, I'll keep the team here if you work a new lease for me for the baseball team. So as soon as he worked his lease for the baseball team, he got rid of the team. Then his lawyer called my lawyer and said, we understand Mr. Kroc has liability to Mr. Lacroix, and he's going to pay him. But we both had to decide where I would go and play if I decide to play. So as long as I was playing somewhere, and Rick Kroc never had to come up with any money because all the teams I paid for, they all paid the rest of my contract.
Wow. And, the WHA is a wonderful experiment and great league that had a lot of fantastic players. I'm curious, through all of this travel and being a worldly man, I would say, traveling all over North America to play hockey, curious, how you've been able to keep up all of these connections you've made. It sounds like you've played in some alumni games or put some together and kept in touch with a lot of these players. Are there any that you're particularly close with? Or are you still putting on games and getting together? Obviously, hockey's a pretty lifelong sport compared to many others.
We see that's a very good point, because to be honest with you, Greg, remember we talked earlier about I'm so glad I played when I did, because we had friends. So the players don't have friends anymore. They're too young, number one. They can't even go into a bar. Okay. When we play a game, after a game, we say, okay, are we going to Rexy tonight? Go for Rexy for a few beers, They don't do that anymore. When the season was over, it was over. We got back in shape like in August, because we used to go back to training camp like in September or so. So maybe in early August, mid-August, we start to get in shape, because I said, why stay in shape year round? Doesn't make sense. Now today, because the guys make so much money, they have to train all year. And I believe, I tell people, when we were playing, in the days I was playing, if they would have checked our body fat, not too many of us would have played. Okay. Today, and the reason, I think there's a lot more injuries today than there were when we played. And part of the reason is because these guys are in such great shape, they have nothing to give. If they take a hit, it's almost, they're all like 6'3", 6'4", and they don't want to be embarrassed. So they challenge a hit instead of learning how to take a hit. I learned how to take a hit and not to give a hit when I was 13 years old. So now these guys, they don't want to be embarrassed in front of their fans. So they challenge a hit, and that's when they get hurt. So you get a lot more injuries now than they used to have when we played. And now, depending on the way the guys are not too anxious to come back too quickly unless someone that took his spot is doing well. Then he hurries back and plays. Yeah. So, and they sign everybody to 6, 7 year, 8-year contract. We had a guy that played, I had a guy, I'm not going to name his name. He used to score a ton of goals. His last year of his contract. And I used to tell the people, I said, I don't understand why the team just don't give him a 1-year contract, because he might score 20, 25 goals if he had a 3-year deal. The last year of his contract, he would score 40 or 45. So what incentive do you have? And most of the contracts are guaranteed now. So you have to pay the player, doesn't matter what. So there's not really the incentive that we had to produce and be successful to get your money, because you're going to get your money, doesn't matter what. I mean, you get guys now in hockey that might score like 5 goals and 10 assists, whatever it is, and they make $3-4 million at least. I mean, it's crazy. So I think that, it's not going to change either. And not because I think hockey last year, because of playoffs, I thought that was the best year for playoffs as far as the teams that were in. I thought of all the teams that were in, there were at least 5 or 6 teams that could have won the Stanley Cup last year. And that never happened in the past, And I think this is the one good thing the National Hockey League that no other league has, salary cap. And you cannot cheat. You cannot cheat. So because of salary cap, they have to make the right decision. And I mean, look at Florida. Look at the season they had. Everyone picked them to win the Stanley Cup. They got blown out 4 games. That's hockey, to be, So I don't know. I have no idea who's going to win the Cup next year. And I wouldn't bet on anybody to win the Cup next year, because the teams are pretty evenly matched, okay? And it depends which goaltender is hot in the playoff. Goaltender wins. Defense win. I always said, defense wins Stanley Cup. Offense does not. That's why I told you earlier, it's so important to have a good 3rd and 4th line line on your team. If you have a great goaltender, the 3rd and 4th line is going to win the Cup for you.
Yeah, especially in a bruising time like the playoffs, it's got to be absolutely massive.
Well, there are too many games in a short amount of time. And because of COVID, they were playing every other day. So after Tampa Bay got beat, they showed the list of the players that were hurt, seriously hurt, but they kept playing. but they couldn't tell anybody what their injuries were because the other team would go after them. But every team was the same way. The game is too physical in hockey, to be honest with you, to have that many games because the guys are so big and so strong today. It's easy to get hurt.
What was your strategy for staying safe out there on the rink? Obviously, being a smaller guy and a different time, maybe Bobby Clarke got away with a few things because he had some bigger line.
Well, Bobby Clarke got away because he had the goons behind him. He had Schultz and Seliski and Bob Kelly. Bobby would start it, and Schultz had to finish it. One thing I learned, that's why I learned when I was in basically playing midget. They taught me how to take a hit, and they taught me how to hit people. And the one thing that I always did, when someone came to try to hit me, my stick was always above my shoulder. So everybody was afraid to come to, because nobody wore helmet then. Because the first thing they would get would be my stick. Okay. And in those days, the only thing you got is a minor penalty, and then you're done, So I never avoided the check, to be honest with you. But again, because I moved the puck so quickly to people, I was not an easy target because the puck was gone. They couldn't come after me because the puck was gone. So that's why I had to play a smart game. And I'm glad I played that way. I didn't have the size, because the best weight for me to play in when I played was 168. And if I was 170, I could tell without going on a scale because I could feel it. So how you feel when you play and the best weight and all that stuff. So now I learned all the little tricks. My best coach was probably the junior B coach, because he's the one that taught me all the little tricks. And even with stick handling, what he used to do at practice, when I played junior B, before I played junior A with the Citadels, in practice, he would put a bandage on my eyes. He would give me a puck. He says, skate around, and I'll tell you when you're near the boards. So I wouldn't look at the puck. And that's how I improved my stick handling, by skating around the rink with a puck, and to make sure the puck was always close to me. And he would say, okay, go left, go right, that kind of thing. And that was a huge, huge help for me, to learn how to stick handle. So I learned a lot of things at a young age because I knew I would have to. If I won, I didn't know if I was going to make a career in hockey. I mean, who knows? I mean, don't forget, there were only 6 teams in the National Hockey League then. And there's about 1 million French-Canadian kids that want to play hockey. And I came from a town of 17,000 people. So who knows? I mean, I took a chance. I remember telling my parents they couldn't afford to send me to college. And I don't think I was a good enough student to go to college. And when I played junior, I told my parents, I'm going to play junior. If it doesn't work out, we'll work something out. And what gave me the incentive of getting better is because I knew if it didn't work out playing hockey, I would end up working for the shipbuilding in my own town. I didn't want to do that.
That is a major motivating factor. I remember
big time
in college always
big
doing
time
landscaping to make sure I did well in school, because otherwise I would slack off for sure. Just managing yourself, right?
For me?
So it's a way of managing yourself and being able to make sure you're doing the right
you
things.
have to manage yourself. That the whole conversation we've had so far, Greg, it's always been about take care of yourself, manage yourself, and because nobody else is going to do it for you. Okay, if they think they're going to do it for you, they're lying to you. So, and also never be afraid to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Never ask it. Always ask questions. I loved it when players would come to me, a coach, what should I do in that situation? Or did I play him right? I said, yes or no. But I said, guys, and I used to tell them all the time. I said, guys, if you don't ask questions because you don't want to get better, okay? If you ask me question, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. So if you want the truth, then I tell you the right thing, then you're going to work at it and you'll get better at it. If not, you're going to say, I don't know if I should have the coach. I don't want him to get mad at me, that kind of thing. I said, guys, I will never get mad at you. I said, I love it when someone comes to me and asks me a question, but that's part of coaching. But most coaches, They're at the youth level and even high school. They think they're the best coaches in the world, and they're the worst.
If you think you're good at something, you're probably not growing, and therefore you're falling behind. So I like that a lot.
Oh, no, you're right. If you're good at something, you don't talk about it, because people will notice it. You don't have to tell people, we won the game because I did this or I did that. I mean, that's brutal, you just feel good in your skin, feel doesn't matter what the score. Listen, my attitude never changed if we won or lost after a game, because I didn't want people to think that I was a different person with the kids because we won, and I was a complete different person because we lost. I never wanted the kids or the parents to see that in me. Never, never. I say, after a game when we lost, I said, guys, listen, get your head up. We didn't play well as a team. It's over. We're going to go practice next couple of days. Let's think about the next game. We can't do anything about this one. I would never say, guys, we lost because you were brutal on the power play or your defense was awful, the goalie sucked or whatever. Never would do something like that. I want to make sure it doesn't matter if we won or lost, that after we left the building, the players knew that I had their back. And to me, as a coach, you need to do that. You need to do that. You cannot have the kids go home and say, a lot of coaches, what they do, Greg, now, if you lose a game, they skate the crap out of you the next practice. What good is that? Doesn't do any good. You lost a game, move on. That's why I tell the reason the coaches don't want to scrimmage, it's because, see, my scrimmage were controlled. If kid make a bad pass, I blew the whistle. I say, guys, when we scrimmage, make sure you hear the whistle, stay where you are. Then we can correct it. Okay? So it was never like you made a bad play. It's just that, see, guys, too many guys on one side of the ice, guys. We need to get the other side covered. Yeah, everything was positive, but I blew the whistle, so it was a controlled scrimmage. But most of the coaches wouldn't know what to have a controlled scrimmage today. That's why they don't scrimmage. They think by doing drills that they're important. They say, hey, we did a lot of drills. And then they spend a ton of time. What they go online. They watch drills, for example, that coaches in the NHL are doing with the kids. I said, guys, it's useless. The kids cannot do those drills. You need to do drills for the age they're playing at. You don't do drills because the pros are doing it, because it's not going to do them any good.
Love this. This has been an absolutely fantastic episode, Andre. I want to thank you for your time. And
my pleasure,
I will give you 2 minutes here to talk about anything you want to talk about. Obviously, you've got your book out there. It's an excellent read and biography on what it was like to be Andre Lacroix and going through the WHA and the NHL, growing up in Quebec. So I'm excited to tell people about it, but I'll let you talk about anything you want for 2 minutes, and then we'll wrap it up here. But thank you again so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. The people always ask me, what's the thing I miss the most about not playing hockey? And to me, it was when I was in Hartford, I started the Andre Lacroix Foundation for Giving. And the reason I started that is when I was playing with the Whalers, I used to raise money for Yukon Children Cancer Fund. And then I got to be a very good friend with the chairman of the board of the G Fox, which is a big store in Hartford, like Sears. It's owned by the May Company. And one night we went to the hospital for dinner, and we had a steak dinner. And they always ask you, said, any question? I said, I have a question. I said, who's paying for this dinner tonight? And they said, well, it's the money we raised. And I said, I don't need a steak dinner to raise money. And then my friend, the chairman of the board of G Fox, said to me, Sally, why don't you start your own foundation? He said, we'll support you. We'll give you money. We'll help you out as much as we can. And I always had a really, really soft spot with people with disability. So that's when I started the Andre Lacroix Foundation for Giving. I had golf tournament. I had alumni games. I raised about $50,000 a year. And then every year, every penny we send, there was not a penny of expenses because I had an accountant that donated his time to take care of the books and an attorney that donated his time to take care of the legal part of it. So, and then G Fox, the main company, they paid for any expenses we had, like jersey or whatever. They paid for everything that we needed. So, and what we did at the game is we would invite people that we bought something for. Like, for example, one family, they needed a van that they couldn't put the wheelchair in their van. So we bought them a van that was accessible to a wheelchair. Other people, we bought them like computers where they could communicate with their family at home. But we brought these people to one of the alumni games that we had. Gordie played in all the games. And then at the game, we would bring them at center ice, and we used to give them, their gift. And this is the thing I miss the most about not playing, is not being able to do more for the people with disability. And when I went to Oakland, I would have loved to be able to continue it, but you need a major company behind you to do that. And I didn't know anybody in Oakland, California to do that. So hockey gave me the opportunity to have a great living. I got 2 great kids, but I miss not doing something for the mentally disabled people.
Awesome stuff here. Andre, this has been a fantastic episode. I'm excited to see you continue to be out there at the rink playing the sport. Well into retirement, we'll say.
Yeah.
Continue to enjoy and make friends. And it's always great to see you around the pond and playing on Sunday mornings.
Thank you very much, Greg. I really appreciate doing it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care.
That concludes this week's episode. Thanks for joining us here at Hockey IQ. If you haven't already, take a quick moment to hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and drop a review. If you want to be a great teammate, even recommend us to a friend. You can follow us at Hockey's Arsenal on Twitter and Instagram. Check out the website, hockeysarsenal.com, where you can subscribe to the weekly newsletter. You won't regret it. Catch your buttes here next week for a brand new episode.